contract negotiations have been ongoing since August. There have been no results, as bluntly commented by former Minister of Maritime Economy Marek Grubarczyk.
Całkowicie niezrozumiałym jest to, że
It is completely incomprehensible that the agreement with the American side has not yet been signed. It looks like Donald Tusk is planning to completely break off cooperation with the American side, to the detriment of Polish energy security. Nuclear power is crucial for Polish energy security. At the end of his presidency, former President Andrzej Duda emphasized that the investment was already 3 years behind schedule. We can all clearly see that the construction of the first nuclear power plant in Pomerania, in cooperation with Westinghouse, was in fact obstructed. The process was delayed and, as a result, it is behind schedule. All because Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, as well as his appointed ministers, want to avoid involving American investors. Meanwhile, the European Commission's decision to grant public aid for the investment paved the way for the agreements to be signed. Tusk's coalition did their best to criticize the choice of American investors. But now, even the European Commission has to admit the investors were selected in accordance with existing standards. The agreement with American companies is not just a matter of building a nuclear power plant. The cooperation goes far beyond the investment itself. I hope the Tusk administration will not be able to break out of this contract and sink this project, because it is very far along. Tusk has already strained relations with the USA. This would only make things worse. The power plant is to be built in Pomerania. The government will allocate 60 billion Polish zloty for its construction. The first works on the construction site of the nuclear power plant will not start until 2028. This is despite Tusk's earlier statements. The construction will be able to get off to a flying start, and that will be this December. We have secured the financial resources, and the Minister of Energy has even indicated a specific date for the launch of the first unit of the nuclear power plant. As far as the construction of the power plant is concerned, everything is right on schedule, and in 2036, electricity from the first Polish nuclear power plant will start flowing. This isn't the first nuclear power plant Tusk has promised. He announced one 16 years ago, during his first time as Prime Minister. The power plant was supposed to start generating electricity in 2020. If the current investment is similarly delayed, it could be completed in 2041, or even not at all. Expectations were high, but cautiously so. History has shown that meetings between the presidents of Ukraine and the USA are neither easy nor pleasant. Volodymyr Zelensky flew to the United States at the invitation of the American president after a series of meetings between White House envoys and delegations from Kyiv and Moscow. The reason for the invitation was to discuss contentious issues in the negotiated peace plan.
We'll speak about 20 points plan. There in 20 points plan, 90% by the way was done by our two teams. I think they made a great job. Great work, and yes, we will discuss these points also.
The atmosphere of the meeting was completely different to what occurred during the previous Trump-Zelensky talks. The conversation between the presidents lasted 2.5 hours. This was followed by a video call with European leaders.
President Karol Nawrocki of the Republic of Poland.
Finally, at a joint press conference after the meeting, the presidents presented their conclusions. Although there is no breakthrough, significant progress has been made.
Our meeting was excellent. We covered, somebody would say 95%. I don't know what percent, but we have made a lot of progress on ending that war, which is really certainly the most deadly war since World War II, probably the biggest war.
One specific example is the status of the Donbass as a free economic zone, an idea being put forward by some analysts as a solution to the territorial dispute, but which has so far been firmly rejected by both Kyiv and Moscow.
We're getting closer to an agreement on that, and that's a big issue, certainly. That's one of the big issues, and I think we're closer than we were probably it's unresolved, but it's getting a lot closer.
The fact is, however, there is still no agreement on 2 points: the status of the entire Donetsk and Luhansk regions, and the status of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, which is currently under Russian occupation. Regardless of further negotiations, which have already been announced by both presidents, Ukraine will want to put the peace plan to a nationwide referendum.
This referendum, if the plan will be very difficult for our society, very difficult, of course our society has to choose and has to vote, because it's their land, the land not of one 4%.
Though the Trump-Zelensky meeting did not result in any groundbreaking declarations, the PR angle is important. It shows that Kyiv has Washington's support in its efforts to end the war.
As of now, the main result, as I see it, is mostly PR result. Basically, Zelensky is still on a good foot with Trump. They're still together, they're still talking. Although Putin is also there, like by the phone, etc.
Ordinary Ukrainians, however, are much less enthusiastic about these talks. For them, what matters is the here and now, and Putin has been showing very clearly in recent days how important peace is to him. We see our enemy. We know that talks will not stop him. Only real force can stop him. Our soldiers are now providing that force. So it is unlikely these talks will stop the war. On the other hand, unity and the presence not only of Trump and Zelensky, but also of the leaders of Russia's neighboring countries, are a crucial aspect of these talks. The decisions that will be made during these negotiations will be important not only for Ukraine itself, but also for all of Europe. In the midst of a political crisis, Bulgaria is preparing to adopt the euro. Public opinion is divided down the middle between euro enthusiasts, who are hoping for cheaper loans and greater integration with Europe, and patriots who fear price increases and the loss of part of their national identity, along with their currency. On January 1st, Bulgaria will introduce the euro, becoming the 21st member of the European single currency zone. This means that only 6 of the 27 EU countries will remain outside the monetary union: Sweden, Poland, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, and Denmark. Polls show Bulgarians are divided on the issue of introducing the euro. I am happy. We will now be able to travel easily, paying in euros without having to exchange currency. However, the decision has also sparked fierce opposition. Protesters took to the streets, waving Bulgarian flags and holding banners with the euro symbol crossed out, and slogans like, "Why do we need the euro if we lose Bulgaria?" I am against it. Firstly, because the lev is our national currency. Secondly, Europe is heading for collapse, as even the US president mentioned in his new national security strategy. And there are similar conclusions that both the euro and Europe are heading for collapse. Joining the eurozone is evidence of Bulgaria's economic improvement over the last decade, especially low inflation. However, political chaos and public frustration over mismanagement and corruption are major challenges.
And there are vulnerable populations that I'm not sure are very well aware of what should be done, especially in the first months after the introduction of the euro. Older people, people living in remote areas, people that have with low level of education. For them, I think that it might be a bit difficult.
The changes are already visible on the streets and in the shops of Sofia. The prices of everyday goods, from fruit in supermarkets to bottles of wine, are displayed in both Bulgarian levs and euros. I'm rather against it. From what I can see, we're going to become poorer. The lev will remain in circulation until around the end of June, when it will still be possible to exchange it for euros free of charge at banks and post offices. After that date, it will only be possible to do so at the Bulgarian National Bank.
It's difficult because for practical reasons. So the currency is new. They are a bit afraid that they will not easily get accustomed to the new look of the banknotes and the coins. They have difficulties in calculating the prices.
Supporters of introducing the euro, mostly business people, argue, among other things, that foreign investment will increase, currency exchange costs will disappear, and the country will more strongly be integrated into the EU internal market. We are partly financed by European programs. We also use bank loans, and of course, personally, as someone who lives in Europe and Bulgaria, I am happy with the decision to introduce the euro. I think the adoption of the euro could have happened a long time ago. I travel abroad so much that I've gotten used to the euro, and its adoption won't make any impression on me. Bulgaria is facing a political crisis. Since 2021, parliamentary elections have been held 7 times, and more may be held in the coming months. The last government resigned on December 11th amid mass protest against corruption and plans to raise taxes and social security contributions. Some argue, instead of joining the eurozone, Bulgaria should focus on stabilizing its own political situation.